Hey everyone, this is Nathan Williams with BlackRain79.com, and I am back here with another hand history review video for you guys. Today I've got 3 hands lined up, and they're all, I believe, at NL2 Zoom on PokerStars, and I think they're all 6 max as well. And I lose all 3, so I think a lot of people think I'm just some big luck box, and I'll show you that that's just not the case. A lot of people know that I'm not really a big fan of Zoom. I think the games play really tight. I think that if you're looking to crush the micros, you're much better off at the regular tables, where you can table select and also seat select. I mean, it's an absolutely huge thing is to be able to get on the left of the fish. So I'm not a huge fan of these games, and that's why I don't play them that often, and I think this might actually be the first time I ever made a Zoom video here for YouTube, probably because of that. I don't play them very often. But nonetheless, I have a couple hands lined up here, and I will try to get some Zoom content on here from time to time as well. Alright, so let's start off with the first hand here, because I know you guys don't want to hear me blab forever. So I got ace-9 on the button here. Again, this is NL2 Zoom 6 max on PokerStars. So it folds to me on the button. I've got ace-9 offsuit. I think you guys know, generally what I'm going to do here. I have a wide stealing range from the button and the cutoff. Full ring or 6 max. And especially in these games, like I said, I think these games play quite tight. Although NL2 is, I call NL2 the circus, I mean, it's, you get a lot of wild players down here as well, so, Zoom or regular, so, I don't know, it's, I think you'll see that through these hand histories as well, so, yeah, I mean, I get 2 calls from the, both the small blind and the big blind. Alright, so we catch a reasonable flop, we get the backdoor, nut flush draw, and we also have the, middle pair. So as you can see with my HUD here, I don't play these games very often, so I don't really have any stats on anybody. You can see I got 4 hands here on villain 2, and I've got 1 hand on villain 1. So, and villain 1 is a short stack, it should be noted as well. So generally, with unknowns, I generally, especially at NL2, I basically just assume that they're not very good. So that's kind of my thinking going into this, if they both check to me, which they do. My thinking going into this is I'm just going to bet for value here, with the intention of just getting it in versus villain 1 because of his short stack. And villain 2 will just play some poker. We'll see what happens if he chooses to get involved. So we do, in fact, choose to make our c-bet 2/3 pot, pretty standard stuff. So the short stack does, in fact, call. So we get a king on the turn. With the overcard's not great, of course, but it does give us the nut flush draw, and we still got our 9 as well. So it does complete the Q10 draw, the Queen 10 draw. But I mean, this guy, we've got 1 hand on him again. I just assume they're probably bad at these stakes at NL2. It's a short stack, So, like I said, my plan going in was just to get it in versus this player. Not totally in love with the turn card, but if he checks, I'm just going to probably stick the money in here, which is what I do. He does call. And the river's really not very nice either. If he has a 10 or any kind of 10, he's going to beat us now. And he happens to have king queen, and he got there on the turn. I do think that our play overall was good, though. I think I've kind of covered that throughout the hand, so I'm not going to talk about that too much more. I'm going to get into the next hand here. So again, we're on the button. We got again a decent hand for sure. The king queen suited. So a guy who we got 5 hands on, who's playing a 60-60. That's VPIP PFR. So far, he opens, and actually it should be noted that we're both deep stacked here. This is NL2, so we're both way over. I mean, I've got like way over 200 big blinds, and he's got about 150-ish or something big blinds. A spot like this, calling is just fine, but I do like a 3-bet as well. Kind of an unknown player, once again. Seems to be a little bit active so far. So I think that I really just think a 3-bet would be for value here. We're also playing 6 max, remember, so I do in fact decide to just go ahead and 3-bet here. I think a call would be okay as well in position. Seems like we have a deep bad player in the big blind as well, so I don't really want to shut him out, but he goes ahead and makes the call anyways. Of course, it's NL2. And the other guy calls as well. You gotta love NL2. It's just so awesome. Um, so okay, so we're all super super deep in this hand here. So and of course we have a bloated pot because it's 3-bet pot. I think the thing is here on this, we have a similar kind of flop here. We don't have a backdoor draw this time, but we do have the sort of nut middle pair just in the top, basically top kicker with the middle pair there, just like the last hand. So the thing is, though, is that we're super deep here. We're in a bloated pot. I think this is a spot where I'm probably a little bit less likely to bet the flop. I think I'm more likely to sort of slow it down and get some pot control if they do indeed check to me, which they do. And I do indeed decide to just check behind. Also, the ace is on board, and I think that bad players are likely to be in there with an ace a little bit more. And obviously, that hand is ahead of me. So, all right. So we catch a pretty harmless 7 on the turn. Doesn't complete any draws. Really doesn't change anything at all. So, a player who we just assume is bad. I mean, you can see by his bet size as well. I've talked about this before, how when they bet something ridiculous like 1/4 of the pot like this, that's a dead giveaway that it's a recreational player once again. So, in this spot here, so what do we do here? I mean, there's definitely an argument for raising here. I don't know what I did. I haven't even reviewed these hands, so I don't know what I did. It is actually pretty close here because when they bet these silly amounts, it can be anything. I mean, it could be some ridiculous draw like Jack 10 or some flush draw, just making some silly bet for something to do. So I actually think a raise here actually might be a kind of a cool idea. But I think calling is okay as well, which was what we decided to just do. Get a fairly harmless card again on the river. So now he bets 1/3 the pot again. So the flush draw did get there. This is a spot. It's just, you see these spots all the time against these ridiculous fish at these stakes because you don't know what to do. I'm getting, as you can see on the board there, I'm getting 5.43 to 1 here, right? And we obviously have middle pair top kicker. However, I think in this spot the flush draw did get there. We also, it should be noted that one player has called as well. Like, if villain 10 had have folded here, I think I would probably snap call this. But I just think that there's a reasonable chance that one of them at least has an ace in this spot. When you're overcalling in a situation, overcalling would be when there's a bet and a call, and then we're going to call as well. I think you need generally top pair in these spots to be good, even though we're getting a ridiculous price and even though they're two terrible players. Sometimes they're both going to show up with something ridiculous and it'll put you on tilt. But I do think that a fold is probably the best in this situation most of the time. I do indeed fold. Villain 7, of course, shows up with something totally ridiculous, but Villain 10, I have no idea why he is just calling down the whole way with top 2. That's not how you play poker, guys. That's not. Don't do it like that. Let's get on to the last hand here. We got Jack 10 offsuit on the button. Decide to raise. Again, wide range. This hand we're actually against a really, really tight rig. Ridiculous tight, of course. This is NL2, right? We got a guy who is crazy tight for full ring, and we're playing 6x here. Okay, he's 11-5. He's also got a half stack, should be noted. Another one of these players that I call a bad reg, right, which you see everywhere in NL2. So totally different player type than what we had in the previous two hands. So that's something to keep in mind. So he checks. Typically here, this is just a no-brainer kind of c-bet. I think that he's probably calling with a tight range, but it's difficult to hit that flop. I just think he's probably a tight, sort of weak player who's probably going to fold a lot of stuff if I just make a bet here. So that's exactly what I do. He does call. So he checks again to us on the turn. And this is a classic spot. No, we don't have anything, of course, at all, but we get the great scare card on the turn. I think that if he floated the flop here with his pocket eights, his pocket tens, I don't know, like a lot of different things, like a lot of the different sort of mid pairs and stuff. He's going to be scared of the ace, and he's already checked to us here. There's a good chance that we just make a bet here. He's going to lay down a ton of hands, and of course it's a huge victory for us because we have Jack high with like no draw, nothing. So we do decide to go ahead and make the double barrel as a bluff. Sorry, tripping over my words here. And he goes for the ridiculous overbet check raise all in. Obviously, I mean, there's nothing even to say here. We have Jack high. But I do think that we played the hand well overall. We just kind of got unlucky that he happened to have some sort of big hand in this spot. So I do hope that, obviously I fold, right? I do hope that these three hands were useful for you guys. If you have any questions about them, you can just leave them in the comments below. If you guys want to know about my overall strategy for these stakes, you can check out the link in the description for a free guide to my massive profit at the micros to show you how I have created some of the biggest win rates in the history of online poker at these kind of stakes. I also have a blog at blackrain79.com where I'm constantly putting out strategy articles, usually on a weekly basis. You can check that out as well. I'll be back here with more videos on YouTube. Again, I hope this was useful. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. It's been Nathan Williams, actually, with blackrain79.com.